In today's plate of history beans, I'll talk briefly about what life was like for a rail worker in the 1800s. The first steam locomotives appeared early in the 19th century, but first railroad tracks predate those engines by over 50 years. In 1764, British Captain John Montresor had tracks built up the steep hillside alongside Niagara Falls in Lewiston, New York. He did this because getting supplies up the trail was so difficult, porters had to crawl on hands and knees. Mules and oxen couldn't climb the trail at all. This first railway, built by the British Army, was called the Gravity Trail. It's unclear, at least as far as I can tell, how well the rail system worked. I imagine getting the cars, which were drawn from the top by animals and pulleys, back down the hill was much easier than getting them up the hill. Following that, a number of tramways or rail tracks laid so large loads could be pulled by draft animals or gravity sprang up across the colonies. The first steam-driven locomotives wouldn't show up until the 1820s. By that time, rail crews had already been around for nearly half a century. Right from the first, building tracks for the transport of industrial goods was a tough and dangerous job. The men who laid the tracks for our nation's railroads worked an average of 12 hours a day and often put in 16 to 20 hours at a stretch. They were paid a daily wage regardless of whatever hours they worked, an average of about $30 a month for 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Your chances of serious life-changing injury as a rail worker in the 19th century were about 1 in 50. That may not sound so bad, but we're talking about losing a finger or toe or an arm or leg. Serious life-changing stuff. I won't even mention sprains, strains, abrasions, cuts, bruises. Honestly, from my admittedly limited research, I'm not a historian, just a fan. I'm not even sure those would have been considered injuries, just part of the job. Chances of dying on a rail crew were about 1 in 400 in any given year. By comparison, the most dangerous jobs nowadays, logging and commercial fishing, have a mortality rate of around 1 in 1,000, which still seems ridiculously high to me. The things we do for cash. Rail workers faced all sorts of challenges, laying tracks over every geographic obstacle imaginable. If they were in a forest, they became a logging crew. If they were going up, down, or through a hill, they used explosives. If they had to ford a river, they needed practical knowledge of bridges. Of course, every rail crew included engineers and architects, but those men weren't always competent at their trade. Likewise, surveyors, men trying to determine the best route from point A to point B, weren't generally interested in choosing the most rail crew-friendly terrain. Imagine hauling tons of steel up a steep hillside in the pouring rain in either a wagon or a newly laid track, using oxen or mules for propulsion. For my part, I can hardly imagine what it must have been like. It wasn't work for an old man like myself, but in many cases, old men did the job. One of the most compelling stories associated with the Old West must be the building and completion of the first transcontinental railway. In the West, the Central Pacific Company began laying track in October of 1863. Meanwhile, in the East, the Union Pacific Railroad didn't get started until July of 1865 because of the Civil War. The two lines would eventually meet in Promontory, Utah in May of 1869. Rail service across the continent began that same day. One of the most dramatic tales associated with the building of the first transcontinental railway is the story of Chinese rail workers in California constructing tracks through the Sierra Nevada mountains. From 1863 to 1867, a total of around 20,000 Chinese workers toiled to cut 15 tunnels through those hills. The first challenge came in a place called Bloomer Cut, where workers blasted away the side of a 65-foot-high mountain. Soon thereafter, they reached what they called Cape Horn, named after the treacherous ocean crossing around the tip of South America. Workers toiled there for a year, blasting 3 miles of trail into a nearly perpendicular cliffside running alongside the North Fork of the American River. Following Cape Horn, the California Central Pacific Railroad added workers and laid tracks that rose in elevation nearly 1,000 feet along what was called the Donner Lake Wagon Road, just to the west of the famed Donner Pass, to a place called Dutch Flat. From there, the mostly Chinese crew continued to climb into the Sierra Nevada mountains until in the fall of 1865, they came to the biggest challenge of all, the Summit Tunnel, 1,800 feet cut through solid granite at an elevation of 6,200 feet. Cutting through the rocky summit was agonizingly slow. The black powder used at the time only chipped away at the tunnel. The recently discovered nitroglycerin was used for a short time, but after a series of dreadful accidents, the CCPR stopped using it. For a time, Cornish miners, thought to be the best miners in the world, were brought in to work on the Summit Tunnel. Taking careful measurements, however, the owners of the CCPR soon realized the Chinese crews were getting more done. The conditions were brutal as the men worked through 2 of the worst winters recorded, with 44 howling storms in one season. Dozens of men died of hypothermia, and 20 men were killed in 1867 in a single avalanche. It is truly one of the most compelling stories of the Old West. That's it for today's Plate of History Beans. As always, if you like my content, I would be so grateful if you hit the like and subscribe icons. All of these history lessons are related to my book Hunting Charm, so if you're following that story, you might visit my author's page on Amazon. I'll have a link below. Likewise, I'll have links on what it was like to be a rail worker in the 19th century, a time when a few men, known as robber barons, accumulated vast riches exploiting the resources of our great nation and the people living here and abroad. Now it's time for Chapter 24 of my novel Hunting Charm, Unfinished Business. Chapter 24, Unfinished Business. When Cecil left Mr. Sugars and his 2 surviving children near Colorado City, he promised he would see them again. He told his elderly hired man to continue north to Fort Collins and gave Mr. Sugars $453 in gold, the total minus $20 from the sale of 20 mules in Abilene and an additional 63 assorted mules, hinnies, and ponies to the U.S. Cavalry at Fort Union. Cecil felt grateful that Colonel Alexander agreed to purchase the stock, even though the price was less than a third of what he might have gotten otherwise. Alexander said he wanted to pay more, but simply didn't have the budget. Cecil couldn't ask Mr. Sugars to watch the children and a herd of nearly 100 animals, even though the elderly gentleman seemed willing to try. "Wait for me in Fort Collins," Cecil said. "Cottonmouth says he will send word to Sergeant Williams there. Williams will find folks to put y'all up for a while. When I get back, we'll move on to Wyoming Territory or maybe further west." Cecil could think of nothing more to say. There was no contingency should he fail to return. Before leaving, he pulled his 5-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter to his chest for a moment and then, with a wave goodbye, rode east. He planned to travel first to Dodge City to tell the sheriff what had happened. With 2 mules, he traveled 200 miles in 4 days, arriving on a warm Monday evening in late May, and found a spot to camp for the night. The following morning, Cecil arrived at the Dodge City jail at 8 a.m. hoping to speak with Sheriff Lawrence Dagger. Dagger, a angular gentleman with a curling handlebar mustache, acknowledged Cecil with a slight nod. Cecil recalled Major Alexander's thoughts about the sheriff. "He's not a friendly man, but he's a Kansan. He does his job by the book, regardless of whether he likes it or not. That's what you need right now." "I'm Cecil Johnson." Cecil presented his hand, which the sheriff ignored. Cecil stood for a long, uncomfortable moment, lowered his arm, then added, "I served under Colonel Alexander at Fort Union." "What can I help you with?" Digger, preoccupied with his paperwork, didn't look up. "Yes, sir. I wish to report that a white woman, Miss Doreen Tarwater, arrived at my place in Indian Territory toward the end of March. Then a week later, a man or group of men looking for Miss Tarwater arrived at my home and killed my wife and infant child and burned my home." Digger placed his pen into an inkwell and cleared his throat. "Go on," he said. "I have a written statement with those dates as well as other details. I feel it's essential I file a public complaint. As I said, my wife and one of my children died in the attack. We had no relations with Miss Tarwater beyond—" The sheriff lifted a hand, his expression remaining neutral. "Do you know how to read? I assume if you wrote a statement, you can read." "Yes, sir, I can read." "Okay, then, if I have questions, I'll ask them. If we need to, we have 2 lawyers in Dodge. I'll have one of them witness your document." "If you feel it's necessary, sir." "Let's hear it first." There was a long moment as Cecil pulled his statement from a leather pouch. He had hoped to maintain a professional tone, but as he read, recounting the events surrounding his wife's death, he was forced to pause more than once to regain his composure. "Statement regarding events of March 18th through April 5th. I, Cecil Johnson, sold mules to Theo Tarwater on March 18th. We were returning to my place in Oklahoma Territory, 4 days on the road, over half the way home. That evening, March 23rd, we found that Miss Doreen Tarwater had been hiding in one of the wagons. Neither my hired man, Mr. Sugars, nor myself knew she had been there until that time." "Hang on," the sheriff interrupted. "You didn't know she was there for 4 days?" Cecil swallowed nervously. "She had been under some canvas there in the back of Mr. Sugar's wagon. We were driving hard, making 30 miles a day trying to get home. My man, Mr. Sugars, ain't too good at seeing nor hearing. Wagons and mules make a good deal of jingling and such. She had been eating on some crackers and jerky we had in the wagon. At any rate, we couldn't just put her out there on the road. We were already past Wichita." "Go on." Digger dusted the papers he had been working on and placed them to one side to dry, clearly interested now in Cecil's story. "Yes, sir. The afternoon we first knew Miss Tarwater was in the wagon, I suggested Mr. Sugars take 2 of the mules and Miss Tarwater to Fort Gibson, 2 days' ride to the east. Miss Tarwater said she wasn't going back. She said she would tell her father or the authorities that we had—" Cecil paused, taking a deep breath. "That we had kidnapped her and molested her, if we were to take her back." "If you took her back, she would say that you had kidnapped her and molested her?" "Yes, sir. She said she hated her daddy and wasn't going to go back." Why didn't you take her back even though she threatened you, if you hadn't done anything to her?" "All due respect, Sheriff, a white woman says she's been molested by a black man. No matter the circumstances, chances are that black man ends up swinging from a rope. I have had a wife and 3 young'uns." "Point taken," Deeger said. "What happened next?" Cecil paused to regain his composure, then continued. "We arrived 3 days later at our ranch in Indian Territory, afternoon of March 28th. Miss Tarwater was housed proper in a shed where our hired man, Mr. Sugars, usually stayed. During her time there, we made sure she had good meals in the morning, afternoon, and evening." Cecil paused again, but decided he would add a detail. "I didn't write this part down, but we discussed taking her on south to the Red River. We meant the woman no harm, though harm came on mine because of her. Anyway," Cecil gathered his statement once more, composed himself, and continued. "On the morning of March 30th, Miss Tarwater left with the help of my wife. We gave her food supplies and a good mule. We ain't seen her again after that day." "You said the events of your statement went through the 5th of April. "Yes, sir. April 5th was the day the men showed up at our place looking for Miss Tarwater." "I see." "On the afternoon of April 5th, I was away working 3 miles west of our place." "You weren't there, at your home. If you weren't there, how can you testify as to what happened?" "My son and daughter were there, and they saw it," Cecil said. "They saw the man that killed my wife and heard him say how he was looking for Miss Tarwater." "I don't see either of your children here." "No, sir. We decided it was best to gather what we could and leave. I couldn't be sure if the men who killed my wife were still present in the area. I was fearful for the lives of my other children." "Any statement regarding the events surrounding your wife's death isn't worth a plug nickel in court. It's hearsay." "That fella shot my wife and then burned her and my baby alive inside. That ain't hearsay. I seen my wife's bones, the bones of my infant child." Cecil paused and took a deep breath, composing himself. "We had to leave our home." Dager nodded and extended his hand. "Go on and give me the statement. I'll look at it and get it stamped with the date. But I don't know what you expect me or anyone to do." "I didn't reckon you would do anything, sir. I just wanted an official record of things filed proper and right, so folks somewhere might know that I didn't do no harm to no one. I can't just curl up and quit. I got to go on for the sake of my 2 remaining young'uns." Cecil handed Dager the paper. The sheriff took the document, slipped it into a drawer, and stood. Cecil, his years of military training returning instinctively, saluted, an action that drew a deep sigh from Sheriff Dager. "Thank you, sir," Cecil said, preparing to leave. The sheriff had given his word he would keep a record of his statement. Cecil had done what he came to do. "Hang on." "Sir?" "Mr. Johnson, I will keep my word, and I'll send this on to Abilene. If I could do more, well, as you were, soldier." Cecil nodded, trying to relax. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "I'm just trying to keep what's left of my family safe, sir. I am all they have. I'm going back to Indian Territory to bury my wife and baby. Then I need to get on back with my other young'uns. Mr. Tarwater there in Abilene is a rich man. I can understand him being upset about his daughter. The fact is, I don't know where she might be. A rich man has the power to come after a poor man, especially a poor colored man. My children, a boy just turned 5, and his little sister need me alive. I'm not looking for justice. I ain't no fool. I just don't want to see my name on wanted posters for something I've never done. I just want to live peaceably and raise my 2 children. The sheriff looked at Cecil for a long moment, and then his expression softened. Tell you what, for what it's worth, and that ain't much, I believe you. I can't say if the sheriff over in Abilene will do a damn thing. Chances are he won't. But if you should come to trial, we'll have this on file, and if you mention my name, I'll testify as to your character. Coming here was a courageous choice. Cecil left Dodge City still heavily burdened, but feeling more confident about a life for himself and his children, for now he had business in Indian Territory. He carried his Henry rifle cleaned and ready. If men appeared asking about Doreen Tarwater, he wouldn't hesitate. As a former soldier with 10 years of Army training, he knew how to pull a trigger as well as any white man.